Hello and welcome to Granada Reports.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Coming up on the programme this evening.
A loving dad and doctor, how Amit Patel died in hospital from a condition few seem to understand, except him. He told his wife at his bedside, "I'm going to die here."
Another mountain to climb, this time the uphill struggle over disabled parking for Manchester Arena survivor Martin Hibbert.
Well, this hospital saved my life, and it's great. I feel at home here. But looking up, like when I did Kilimanjaro, I didn't think I was as out of breath.
Right on cue, Wanderers are heading to Wembley. Can Bolton take another step back to the big time by winning promotion?
The pills do work. The amazing story of how Terry got to walk his daughter down the aisle and do so much more because he ate a dodgy fish pie.
And we've certainly enjoyed some blue skies here in the northwest over the last few days. As we take a look towards the weekend, find out what we have in store later on.
Well, first tonight, he was the doctor who died from an illness he himself was a leading expert in treating.
An inquest has been hearing how Dr. Amit Patel was so poorly as he lay in a bed at Wythenshawe Hospital in Manchester. He told his wife, who's also a doctor, "I'm going to die here."
Well, she's told the hearing that there was a total lack of understanding about the condition her husband feared he had, an immune disorder called HLH.
Our reporter Anna Yosef has been at the inquest today. So what more can you tell us, Anna?
Well, Lucy, Professor Amit Patel has been described as one of the brightest doctors of his generation and a pioneer in stem cell transplantation. But in October 2021, the father of two was admitted to Wythenshawe Hospital. It's exhibiting flu-like symptoms believed to be linked to a throat infection. When he didn't improve with treatment, doctors began to suspect that he was suffering from a rare immune disorder called HLH, a disorder which, in fact, he was a national expert in. His wife, Dr. Shivani Tanner, previously told the court it was terrifying for her husband to realise doctors there didn't understand the condition. One doctor who was treating her husband said he'd never heard of HLH and would have to read up on it. Other members of staff told Professor Patel that he was the least unwell patient on the ward and didn't qualify for intensive care. That's despite the experts saying that he was suffering from a life-threatening illness. The court was told, Professor Patel told his wife, "I'm going to die here." Dr. Tanner said that even though her husband was a haematologist himself, he was denied access to his blood test results. She also said that some of the wards were so short-staffed that nurses had asked her to check her husband's observations and fluids herself. The trust which runs Wythenshawe Hospital denies these claims.
And Nana, the inquest also heard today from one of Professor Patel's colleagues who was asked to advise on his treatment.
Yes, we heard from a Dr. Jessica Manson, a specialist in HLH, who was a co-chair on the same national advisory panel as Professor Patel. She told the inquest that he was extremely unwell and frightened when she became involved in his treatment. The court heard Professor Patel had a 50% chance of survival when she advised doctors to carry out an EBUS, an invasive procedure to test if cancer was the driver in his illness. His family believe complications from this procedure led to his death. The inquest is expected to continue tomorrow.
Anna in Manchester, thank you.
Well, next tonight, a new series looking at the problems that people with disabilities can face just getting on with their lives.
Yeah, and we are starting with someone you'll recognise. Martin Hibbert was severely injured in the Manchester Arena bomb. He was the closest person to the bomber who survived and described his wounds as being like being shot at point-blank range 22 times.
Well, he's now paralysed from the waist down and uses a wheelchair. And that, he says, has opened his eyes to a whole new world of challenges. Elaine Wilcox reports.
Nothing prepared Martin Hibbert for life in a wheelchair, but he's convinced he survived the Arena bomb attack to help change the world for disabled people.
You've just arrived in Manchester.
Yes.
You would have preferred to come by train. Why isn't that an option?
You've got to book. So they normally say 24 hours, but even then it can be a bit hit and miss. So I only really travel on trains now when I'm going down to London, sadly.
Here's the lift.
Sometimes in car parks where the lift's been totally out and I've had to literally go down where the cars come up to get down to the exit. This is the first drop curb. A lot of the slabs are broken. Water will gather round the bottom. If your wheel gets caught in one of them, I could be tipped out. Sometimes I'll actually stay on the road when I come off spinning fields because it's straight, but obviously it's dangerous. You've got to look at everything tactically. How am I going to get up? How am I going to get down? You know, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Let's get planners and architects around the table. Have they actually test driven all these with a wheelchair user or a disabled person or a mother with a pram? I bet they haven't.
This is your favourite restaurant in Manchester. It doesn't have a lift. We were hoping to speak to someone at T2 who was going to explain why it doesn't, and they've moved into the building, but they've made their sister building more accessible, but they're now not available.
I know it's disappointing. I came in the opening week, 2 weeks, back in, I think it was 2015, 2016. We came several times before I was injured.
They've said they tried to make the down floor as accessible and as fun.
The food is the same, but it's not the same experience. You get the feeling that you're just being plonked somewhere because you can't go upstairs. There's laws to say that I shouldn't be discriminated against because I'm in a wheelchair, and it's busy every night, so you're not telling me that they couldn't put a lift in.
Martin, it's all very well not being able to get into a nice restaurant, but this is a hospital.
With building work on the hospital's main site, the closest disabled car parking spaces are on a hill.
You know, this hospital saved my life. And it's great, you know, I feel at home here, but looking up, I mean, like when I did Kilimanjaro, I didn't think I was as out of breath, but it's really tough. You know, get the planners, get the local council to say, right, you think this is adequate, right, you get across here in a wheelchair and then up there, and I'll give you 5 minutes. And they won't be able to do it.
Well, big deep breath, you've got to do that.
I should get you to do it.
Salford Royal Hospital says assistance is available, but Martin and others we met have never heard of it. And it took all his determination and strength just to get back to his car. And that's what he wants to change.
Yeah, what an incredible man he is. Still the smile on his face. Elaine's with us now. Elaine, we saw Martin having a terrible time there. And he's not the only one who is having problems. You met someone else as well.
Yeah, you might have just seen a couple struggling to get up that hill just behind Martin. That's Jo and her mum. Jo's a physio, and she said the last time she took her mum to an appointment at the hospital in a mobile unit, the disabled parking was so bad she left in tears. Now, Salford Royal says it has volunteers who can provide additional assistance to patients, but Sue and Martin have never heard of this assistance. So if that information isn't getting through, it needs to change. And they've said when they book an appointment, let them know, and that's one thing, one simple thing that can make a difference.
It is unbelievable stuff. Martin clearly frustrated that despite laws to stop discrimination, his favourite restaurant still doesn't have a lift for him to access.
Absolutely, the laws are there. This is his favourite restaurant. He loves the food looks stunning, but he can't go upstairs. So he says, you know, he wanted to ask the owners, why did you choose that restaurant? Why did you choose that building, a new development? Were disabled people even considered? Now, this is really interesting. In a statement, they've said Tattoo, when they opened in 2015, to comply with the regulations, they had to ensure that customers enjoy the same experience, the same food, the same service on both floors. Well, Martin says, that's just ticking a box. It's ticking a box. And they say, you know, disabled people are not an afterthought. He wants a roundtable discussions with business people, politicians, all around the table to make sure this is top on people's agenda.
Yeah, and he won't be giving up on it if we know him. And finally, Elaine, more from you tomorrow.
Yes, we will be telling Jo and Sue's story tomorrow. You might be really shocked by this. I know Martin was when we chatted. Sue's a retired teacher from Glossop, very, very active in the local cricket club. She looks after her grandchildren. Just a few months ago, just before Christmas, she lost the feeling in her legs. She's got spinal compression, she can't stand, and her life changed overnight. She's in a wheelchair. She's worked all her life. She asked for a mobility vehicle. She's not entitled. Why do you think that is?
I've no idea. Why not?
because of her age, because she gets a pension, even though she's worked all her life, she is not entitled. So the family have had to raise £22,000 to buy a mobility vehicle so that she could help look after the family. Martin, as Vice President of the Spinal Injuries Association, was so shocked to hear that. And you know, we've had Shirley Houston, Coronation Street actor, on this programme many, many times. She started the creative hashtag Taking the Dis. We want to hear people's experience when these decisions adversely impact them, and we'll follow up.
We'll be listening carefully. Elaine, thank you.
In other news today, and a 16-year-old girl is in a critical condition in hospital after taking a substance suspected to be ecstasy. Emergency services were called to an alleyway off Wolverham Road in the Chorlton area of Manchester last night after the girl collapsed. A 21-year-old woman has been arrested on suspicion of supplying Class A drugs.
A man's been shot dead and another has been seriously injured at Whaley Bridge in the Peak District. Police were called to reports of a burglary in Eccles Road in the early hours of this morning. The injured man has been arrested on suspicion of aggravated burglary. A third man has been arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder, and a fourth on suspicion of aggravated burglary. Police believe it was a targeted incident.
Manchester's new £365 million arena is due to finally open this evening after being postponed twice. Checks on safety and emergency communication have delayed the opening of the flagship venue from last month. Peter Kay was the intended opening act, and he now will perform at the end of May. An American rap artist takes to the stage as the first official act tonight.
Yeah, we'll be watching developments there. And Cunard's new ship, Queen Anne, was greeted by a water salute when she arrived in the UK for the first time. The liner, which can carry 3,000 guests, will be named in Liverpool in June. The city was the home of Cunard before they moved to Southampton in 1919. Queen Anne has been built over 5 years at a cost of more than £500 million.
Well, next tonight, in a day is a long time in politics, and tomorrow could well be one of those days in our region.
Yes, voters across the northwest are going to the polls to select local leaders in the council elections. There are also contests for metro mayors in Greater Manchester and in Merseyside, and also for the police and crime commissioners.
But in addition to all that, there's a by-election happening in Blackpool, and all eyes will be on one who wins there to see what it might mean at the general election, which could be called at any time.
Our political correspondent Andrea Misra looks at what's happening.
While the spotlight might be on the parliamentary by-election in Blackpool South tomorrow, there are also local elections taking place in 22 northwest councils. Of those local authorities, Labour currently controls 17, which they'll be defending. In nearly all of these councils, a third of seats will be contested. In Rochdale, new MP George Galloway says he wants to wipe Labour off the council by supporting a so-called Grand Alliance of local independent candidates. But the councils where no party has overall control look like the ones to watch. If Labour can follow up the gains they've made in Bolton over the last couple of years, they could well win back the majority they lost in 2019. Their chances of doing that in Pendle were dashed when 20 Labour councillors quit the party a month ago. In Stockport, it's the Liberal Democrats who run the council as a minority administration. If they gain 4 seats, they'll take overall control. There are also mayoral elections in Greater Manchester, the Liverpool City region and Salford. And police and crime commissioners will be chosen in Lancashire, Cheshire, Merseyside and Cumbria. It's all happening tomorrow. Polling stations are open from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. And if you're voting in person, remember to take your ID.
Well, Andrew joins us now. Andrew, let's start with Blackpool South, a Conservative seat, of course, until the MP Scott Benton stepped down. Now very much a big Labour target.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, Lucy. Labour want Blackpool South back after losing it in 2019, and they're determined to try to overturn the Conservative majority of 3,500. And I suspect they doubled down on that determination after the embarrassment of not winning the Rochdale by-election, which was 2 months ago today, believe it or not. But when that result comes through from Blackpool South on Friday morning, it's going to set the mood and the tone for the rest of the results as they trickle through in the afternoon and over the weekend. And some useful context for you here. The last time there was a by-election on the same day as the local elections was 3 years ago in Hartlepool. Labour lost that to the Conservatives, and it was the lowest point of Sir Keir Starmer's leadership. Now he'll be determined to do the opposite, to pick Blackpool South up from the Conservatives and hold it up as a sign of how much things have changed.
So, Andrew, a by-election, lots of local elections. The big question is, what will the results mean for the general election, whenever that is?
Yeah, look, Kamal, first and foremost, local elections are important. Arguably, they make the biggest difference to people's lives and the services that they use locally. But yes, you are right, this is the last round of them before the general election, and that means inevitably they take on extra significance. Many people are expecting it's going to be a bad day for the Conservatives. If that is the case, exactly how bad will determine the Prime Minister's future and when that general election might be. I think it's fair to say that the Tories don't have huge hopes in the North West. More generally, those mayoral contests have been seen as quite a key indicator, although in the North West, opinion polls very much point towards Andy Burnham and Steve Rotherham holding on in Greater Manchester and Liverpool, respectively. Finally, it's worth pointing out that some of the declarations aren't going to happen until as late as Sunday, so it's very much going to be a marathon, this, and not a sprint.
And of course, it's all happening tomorrow. Andrew, thank you. And there are 9 candidates standing in the Blackpool South by-election. Those polls open at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Sport now, and Bolton have Wembley in their sights. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, just over a year ago, Bolton Wanderers enjoyed a famous win at Wembley as they lifted the Football League trophy. Well, now they're hoping to go back to the National Stadium, this time to win promotion. Wanderers have made the end-of-season League One playoffs and kick off their semi-final on Friday. And today has been their playoff media day. David Chisnall was there.
Come on, Bolton! It's revenge or repeat for Bolton Wanderers as they embark on their League One playoff campaign against Barnsley, the team who knocked them out at the same stage last year.
Well, Ian, here we go again. Playoffs, Barnsley, take 2.
Yeah, obviously didn't end well for us last season. We've learned and evolved from that time, and I think it's really important that we forget what's gone on then and forget the season. It's now down to a one-off game.
How much can you switch off from that last season? How much did it hurt?
Well, it definitely hurt to fail in a very tight game against Barnsley. Was bitterly disappointing, but we've regrouped and we've had a better season this season with a team which have finished the highest of the 4 that are entering the playoffs, and we have to show why.
Well, the club will take plenty of support over the Pennines after selling out their away allocation of more than 2,000 for Friday's playoff semi-final first leg.
We should have gone up last year, but I think Everett's done a really, really good job with the side, and I think this is the year for us, and I think we're going to do it.
I actually didn't want us to go up last year because I didn't think we were ready, but this year I think we're ready. It's either this year or never.
And what would it mean to get back into the Championship?
A lot for the club and a lot for the supporters, really. It shows where we've come from after nearly being put out of business.
Yeah, I think we just need that one final push, and for the sake of my sanity, I'm depressed and grey enough. Please, just come on, let's get through, let's get back to the Championship.
Finds Collins! A return to the Championship has been tantalisingly close for Bolton, who just missed out on promotion in the regular season after finishing 3rd in the league, 1 place off going up automatically.
Is there any sense of disappointment?
There probably is a bit of disappointment, but I think that's done now because obviously we're going to have a 5-day build-up leading towards the game. So yeah, we're over that. We knew we could have maybe got into the top 2, but that's behind us, and there's only one way now to get up, and that's by winning the playoffs.
Bolton will have the home advantage next week as the Tough Sheet Stadium hosts the second leg, as the club looks to book a return to Wembley and a return to the Championship after 5 years away. David Chisnall, ITV News, Bolton.
Well, staying with football, and Blackburn Rovers manager John Eustace has been charged with misconduct by the Football Association. It follows his clash with Coventry player Casey Palmer in last weekend's goalless draw at Ewood Park. Eustace was sent off for pushing Palmer on the touchline. He has until this Friday to respond to the charge. It's a big night in the battle for the Women's Super League title. Liverpool take on Chelsea, knowing a win will see them close the gap on fourth place Manchester United, but also it would dent Chelsea's title hopes and leave Manchester City on the verge of being crowned champions. It's a key week in Liverpool's season. After Chelsea tonight, they face Manchester United on Sunday.
Yeah, no, we're looking forward to these next two games. You know, what a way to finish the season. You know, Chelsea are obviously fighting for the WSL title. We're in a bit of a battle with Man United for fourth, so there's obviously in both games a lot at stake. So yeah, no, we're really looking forward to them, and it'd be a great game for our supporters as well.
And finally, it is turning into quite the week for Everton manager Sean Dyche. First, he and his side secured their Premier League safety, and now he's celebrating with a guest appearance in a music video.
You're the specialist group of people to make sure we can pull this job off.
I don't think I talk like this to anybody.
Stockport band Blossoms invited the blues boss to star in the video for their new single, What Can I Say After I'm Sorry? It's released today.
Basically, the lads I met at a Rick Astley concert, who's great, and saw them, and they just said, look, would you fancy it? I said, yeah, it's been a music video. How would you not fancy that when you're a music fan? They sort of gave me a rough feeling, not too much, just said, could you wear a suit? Could you turn up? I went, yeah, cool, thinking not quite sure how this is going to go, but great, really good group of lads and really good performance as well. For someone who's a big music fan and gig fan, then to be asked and to go in it was very pleasing and a good bit of fun.
Love it. And if anybody deserves some fun after this season, it is Sean Dyche, a man of many talents, it seems.
I thought he'd be singing. I was disappointed. I thought he was going to sing.
Well, we've only seen 20 seconds of the video. Who knows what's in the rest of it?
He's got a great voice, very distinctive voice. Yeah. Mike, thank you. Yeah. Now then, next, we sometimes hear sliding doors moments in a person's life, and this one is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it all started when Terry Berry from Wigan tucked into what he thought was a delicious fish pie.
But Terry became so ill with food poisoning he ended up in hospital, and it was there doctors found he had a rare form of cancer, so he was given no more than a year to live.
Well, that was 4 years ago, and he's still with us thanks to a drug being trialled by the Christie Hospital in Manchester.
And it means he's been around for some very special family moments. This might bring a tear to your eye. Our correspondent Rob Smith reports.
Opening this bottle opens up a future. A drug started on a clinical trial, granting time he didn't think he had.
They told me I had 6 to 12 months.
But 4 years after a terminal diagnosis of bile duct cancer, Terry Berry is still here. Outwardly healthy in 2020, the disease was only discovered after food poisoning put him in hospital. Chemo, followed by new drug ivosidenib, shrank then held the cancer in check. The 61-year-old from Wigan seen life events he feared he'd miss.
My daughter's wedding. My fourth grandchild being born. Everything really. Just getting up every day.
It's a pretty good list.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it like playing with your grandson you didn't think you'd get to ever see?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The clinical trial team at the Christie in Manchester has Terry's endless thanks. The drug they tested targets an enzyme alteration in cancer cells. It isn't a cure, but prolongs survival. It can also feel less toxic than chemo.
So for years, chemotherapy was the standard option for treatment, but now ivosidenib has become available and it's approved now by the NHS. And they're usually tablet forms of treatment as well. They're not available for all because not all patients have these alterations, but for those where it is a possibility, it offers a great additional option.
Look at the flights.
For still sharing holidays, time together, Terry and wife Elaine aren't just grateful for medical advances. They're grateful for the dodgy meal that triggered hospital tests in the first place.
Of all things, a fish pie. So really, it's a bit of luck saying thank you to a fish pie.
Without it, Terry wouldn't have known. He wouldn't have the drug keeping him alive. Rob Smith, ITV News, Wigan.
Yeah, and we wish Terry and his family the very best. Finally, in amphibious mammal news, Chester Zoo hopes the arrival of a new giant otter will help safeguard the species.
Yeah, look at this fine fellow. He is Manu. 1,000 miles he's travelled from Hungary is the perfect match for the zoo's female. That is Tiberi, and it's thought there are fewer than 5,000 left in the wild. But is it going to get hotter? Joe has the weather.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thank you. Good evening. Over the next few days, it's going to feel rather humid. Tomorrow, at least, generally dry, sunny and feeling warm. It's been quite breezy out there this afternoon and continues to be again tomorrow. Through Friday, expect a few heavy thundery downpours to move up across the country into our part of the world. Warm air across the UK, low pressure around, and into Friday, this is what we're beginning to see. Some showery rain moving up from the southwest and perhaps a few thundery downpours to come. Before that, and into tonight, for a time there'll be showery rain around, particularly further south and west, but it's a short-lived affair and it will become dry into the early hours of tomorrow morning. Like last night, we'll see some mist and fog forming, particularly up on the Pennines and in the Peak District, the Cumbrian Fells. Mostly dry for all of us before dawn and a mild night to come, with a change in wind direction to a northerly or northeasterly by tomorrow. On to tomorrow, the sun is up at 5:32, it'll set at 8:44. Early drivers tomorrow morning on Trans-Pennine routes, just take note, it could be a bit misty and murky. The fog will lift and skies will brighten very quickly. It should be a really nice day. We are sheltered from that northeasterly wind by the Pennines, and that will allow temperatures to boost up to around 21 degrees tomorrow afternoon. Just notice a few showers down here, Cheshire, Merseyside way, perhaps by the end of the day, but mostly dry for all of us with lots of sunshine. Now, looking ahead, we'll expect to see some thundery downpours moving up from the southwest during Friday. Temperatures take a bit of a knock. Into the weekend, there's scope for a few showers, but in general, fairly bright and feeling pleasantly warm.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thanks, Joe. Finally, look at these 72 million bluebells at Cholmondeley Castle in Cheshire, counted for us by head gardener, the wonderfully named Barry Grain. Perfect day out for the bank holiday.
We love to see your pictures. Keep them coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye.